Hello, welcome back to Aetheral Space 13.53. Red rum.
Red rum.
Red rum.
Rum.
Red rum. Why is
Yeah,
our
have you ever
son
seen The
asking
Shining?
for so much red rum? He's a fucking drunk.
Honey, I think he meant apple juice.
Oh,
Please.
how silly of me.
The kid's like wasted.
I simply want to be a good parent. I gave him all he asked for.
After all, what mother wouldn't give a son whatever he asks for? That's so fucked. Well, anyway, should we read the
You
chapter?
simply made me do it with his The Shining.
To stand. I'll be honest. I've seen the movie a couple times. I never remember what The Shining is. I know
It's
it's
his
some
psychic
sort of
powers.
mental ability, but like, what does it like tangibly do?
I think it's just sort of just psychic powers. You can like talk to people in their heads and stuff and see ghosts and whatnot.
Yeah. For real. Alright, we ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Are you?
The roof was chaos. Bruno Del Cid charged through the battlefield that had quickly devoured the top of the temple, weaving through attacks and projectiles, each and every one of them sufficient to seriously injure, if not kill. With an upward swing of an invisible sword, he sliced the spear of an attacker in half, and then knocked him out with an elbow to the face. There wasn't a moment to celebrate, though. He was already dodging the next barrage of attacks. In terms of numbers, there was an undeniable discrepancy between their side and the Tree of Might. Against nearly 70 fighters, they brought only 6 people. And two of those 6 occupied by the same body. I would just do occupied the same body.
Yeah.
There you go. It was a miracle they hadn't been killed already. But if nothing else, Atoy Musashi seemed to have become skilled at performing miracles. Keep in mind, he's already injured, right? That was like the whole crux of his argument with Dorothy. And then he's like, I will attack the Tree
Well,
of
he's
Might.
not going. He's not there.
Uh-oh. Wait, then... Huh? Oh, it's his team, I see.
Yeah.
It was a combination of 2 factors that had made this assault possible. Amelia Grace's wide-range attacks, and the tremor created when the S4 had harpooned the underbelly of the temple. They had thrown off the defenders enough that they could press the attack in a moment of confusion. Kicking off a shield wielded by a hefty pugant, Bruno twisted in the air and saw that, indeed, Amelia Grace was preparing to use her ability again. A blinding blue bow had appeared in her hands, and countless rays of light had manifested, bundled together as their payload. She crouched on the floor, bow aimed at the crowd before her. "Down!" she cried, and the other members of the infiltration squad threw themselves down to the ground. Bruno knew already he wouldn't be able to get down there in time. Instead, he went up, creating a staircase of platforms from his force fields as he gained a bird's-eye view of the battlefield. Ordinarily, he'd have been left behind by the temple in the process, but the harpooning had slowed it down enough that Bruno could keep pace. "Delusional arrowhead!" cried Amelia, and she set her arrows free. Immediately, nearly 100 of those bright blue rays surged through... I assume surged?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you saw it.
Surged. Immediately, nearly 100 of those bright blue rays surged through the space in front of her, slamming into the ranks of the Tree of Might. They did no damage. Well, no physical damage, at least. Bruno supposed that was a condition for its potency. Arrows that intensified the target's current emotional state until it overrode their common sense. The overstimulation arrows? The anti-neurodivergent arrows?
Yeah, she hates them.
That's so funny. Oh my god, Tan really does hate autistic people.
I don't.
As they struck the enemies, there was a...
I'm coming around to you guys.
Coming around! I've been convinced. Okay,
It's like,
okay.
you know, Lord of the Rings when Gimli's like, you know, maybe you elves aren't so bad.
My god. As they struck the enemies, there was a mixture of reactions. Some stopped in their tracks, faces twisted by terror. Others sped up, eyes bulging and teeth bared like wild beasts. Either way, they were thrown off, and that made them easy targets. F.A.! Bruno heard Morgan Noct call out from behind him, and a moment later a massive tendril of solid black fog swept across the roof, sending countless enemies flying off the side. Poor bastards. Dazzled as they were by delusional arrowhead, Bruno doubted they'd have the wherewithal to try and escape their fate with aether abilities. Whatever the case, Bruno couldn't wait here. He had to get moving. If Dragon was here, then Bruno had no doubt that he'd already be making his escape. Even with a situation like this, Gemini World would make leaving easy. Bruno just had to hope he had a reason to stick around for the time being. There'd be a throne room or a command center or something, and that's where Dragon would be monitoring the battle from. Bruno had to reach that place, wherever it was inside this temple. He destroyed the force field beneath him, dropping back onto the roof, and began to charge forwards. Watch out! When a spear of crystallized blood slammed down right in front of him, embedding itself into the surface of the roof. Immediately, Bruno skidded to a halt. If he'd been just a little bit faster just then, if Serena hadn't warned him, that spear would have skewered their skull. Heart-drumming tension, he spun around to face the source of the attack. Thud. 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 One after another, deadly fast, more spears landed down into the roof, but these ones clearly weren't intended as an attack. The crimson spears seemed to form a rudimentary fence of some kind, a circular area separate from the rest of the battlefield. It didn't take a genius to work out what the user of this ability was aiming for. "Real men fight one against one," echoed a voice from above. "Don't you think?" Bruno's head snapped up. It seemed he wasn't the only one who'd abused his ability to gain elevation. The attacker was perched atop a sphere of broiling blood. I can't believe you copied my warlock. That's fucked up, Dan. Floating high above the battle. His face was covered in bandages, so Bruno couldn't get a good look, but the crimson eyes glaring down at him were more than enough to grasp the young man's malevolence. In one hand he held a growling chainsaw, blood seeping from the vents on its sides. An aether armament? "Fino Oino," said the young man, "4th branch of the Tree of Might. And you're," he squinted, "the ventriloquist, aren't you? How auspicious." "How's that?" Bruno asked, already forming force fields to protect against further projectiles. Sorry, if you hear me pause in the recording, that's because
he's scared.
editing as I'm reading.
He gets scared because Bruno's in danger.
"You're an associate of Ruth Blaine, aren't you?" Fino raised an eyebrow. "In fact, you might even have been there. I'm looking for her. Where is she?" "If I knew where she was," Bruno glared, "I wouldn't be here." Fino shrugged. Did you just steal? Why do you keep stealing my swag?
Hold on,
What is this?
I say this frequently. This is a meism.
This is also a meism.
Yeah, you
Fuck
got it from me. If it's your ism.
Did I? No way.
I say this all the
Fino
fucking time.
Fino shrugged. "You were born free. You can choose whether to tell me what I want to know before I cut your limbs off or after." Hold on, what page is this? I'm screenshotting this later. Fuck you. Wait, I lost my place.
Too busy memeing to read the story.
I know.
You were born free.
I know. Where was that? Help.
Where did you?
You were born free. You can choose whether to tell me what I want to know before I cut your limbs off or after. I'm telling you. After, then. With an explosion of blood, Fino launched himself towards Bruno, but before he could get close, a massive tendril of Noct's black fog whipped out and sent him flying off to the side. Morgan Noct himself, weaving the smog storm from its core, sneered at the 5th branch as he rolled to a stop on the floor.
Sorry, he didn't get motion there. That's meant to be 4th branch.
Oh, 4th.
He gets hit by once by Morgan, instant demotion.
Failure!
You see a -1 appear over him.
The number branch is how many times you've been hit in battle. It's like the 800th branch. "As if we just let you go for a one-on-one," Morgan said, glaring right back at Fino. "The rest of us aren't just an audience." "Morgan Noct," Fino muttered as he rose to his feet, blood from his nose flowing through the air and forming a series of darts over his shoulder. "One of the phases, huh? You're another one I find interesting. I've been told that I can kill you. Oh, I've been told that if I can kill you, I'll be well rewarded indeed." You misspelled one, by the way. That's Ohi.
It's because he has his accent. That's how he says it.
There you go. Morgan furrowed his brow. "Told by who?" "Who else? Dragon Hadrian," Fino replied. "If I acquire myself well here, I've been promised the opportunity to compete for the position of 2nd branch." His red eyes flicked over resentfully to Bruno. "After your dear friend murdered the last person to hold that position." How many times had Ruth been framed for murder in this last week? Bruno hadn't even known about this one. More than that, though, from the way this guy was talking, Dragon had known about this attack in advance. He wasn't here, was he? Fuck. Don't give up, Bruno, Serena insisted. "You don't know that!" "Right." Bruno shook his head, clearing those gloomy cobwebs from his brain, and assumed a fighting stance. The other members of the infiltration squad were still dealing with the rooftop guards. He was fairly certain that they and Noct together could deal with this Fino guy. He was only the 5th branch of the Tree of Might after all.
Didn't get into motion.
What the fuck?
I had to admit, the first time when I wrote the article, I forgot which branch she was.
This guy is a hack.
I fixed it pre-release.
He was only the 4th branch of the Tree of Might after all, but the problem was what came after. If Dragon really wasn't here, what was the mission objective? Getting rid of his reinforcements? Somehow, Bruno didn't see much hope in that. It's as you say, though, Morgan Noct," Fino continued, calling out across the rooftop. A one-on-one fight was far too much to hope for under these circumstances. However, I'm more than happy to settle for a 2-on-1. He shifted his own stance, bringing his body low to the ground, roaring chainsaw nearly scraping against the rooftop. So, he said, shall we dance? The way that Fino Oinio saw it. Wait, is it Oino or Onio? Because you called him Oino earlier.
Well, I think I corrected it. It's Onio.
Okay, you should fix the one earlier. It's up there a bit.
There was no...
The way that Fino Onio saw it, there was no motivation in this world more beautiful or more true than vengeance. In one way, it was the most honest of emotions, animal instinct barely elevated by man, the desire to hurt that which has hurt you. But there was a kindness in it as well, the capacity to feel the wounds of another as your own, and the drive to avenge on their behalf. And even then there was malice in it, definite malice, the will to inflict agony far beyond the initial pain. It encompassed all things good and evil. And so it was that vengeance swung ill humor, a blade of solid blood flying out of the weapon through the sky, slicing through Noct's fog like butter, and proceeding directly to his face. If he didn't duck, throwing himself down onto the rooftop as well, no doubt he'd have been decapitated. So he's a blood manipulator, and his Aether armament creates more blood.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It was as people said. Did he make this armament, or did he pick it up and he's like, oh, this is so good for me? This is like a leap gear.
This is like, yeah, that's basically what happened, yeah.
That sweet loot get.
I
wonder how many Aether users are just guy who found a really sick armament.
Based their entire identity on
it. Yeah, it's kind of fucks. I love it. Slicing through blah blah blah. If he didn't duck, throwing himself down onto the rooftop as well, no doubt he'd have been decapitated. It was as people said. This was a proficient warrior. Good. That made this worth it. Fino exploded a globule of blood directly behind his heel, launching himself towards Noct. Before he could get into melee range, however, he was intercepted by the ventriloquist, the bounty hunter swinging what seemed to be empty space in each hand. To the untrained mind, there would have been nothing to dodge, but Fino had not lived this long by being careless. Strings of blood pulled Fino backwards, out of the ventriloquist's range, and as they did, he felt the air be sheared apart before him. Oh, see, I'm imagining in the fight this happens, and he dodges, and then there's a split second, and you see, like, the walls behind him with these giant gashes, and, like, the crumbling noises. I love it. He'd made the right decision, dodging. Crystalline blood flowed between his feet as he hopped from platform to transient platform. With a choked roar, ill humor vomited up even more blood from its vents. Fino Onio's ability was called Red Rum, the ability to control blood that he had infused for any number of purposes. Ill humor was nothing more than a tool to bolster that ability further. Its ability was very simple, activating under 3 possible conditions. When Fino blocked a hit with ill humor, it would vomit blood. The more powerful the blocked attack, the more blood was granted. When Fino dodged a hit while holding ill humor, it would vomit blood. The closer, presumably, the hit was to landing, the more blood was granted. When Fino landed a hit with ill humor, it would vomit blood. Needless to say, the more vicious the wound dealt, the more blood was granted. I think that also just happens with any weapon, right?
So it's more blood.
In short, the longer a fight went on, the more blood Fino would have at his disposal, and the more formidable he would become. I need... Oh man, this is so cool. Flipping over a cube that Noct had kicked at him, Fino sculpted the blood pouring from ill humor into a crimson sword, clutching it in his free hand, and dashed forward, back towards the ventriloquist. In a fight like this, he'd do best to take care of them first. Noct struck with a tentacle of black fog again, but now Fino... By the way, is this fog Klaus's fog?
It was based off Klaus's fog. He got the idea from it during the Elysian Fields fight when he was in bed, like, immersed in it.
Gotcha.
But this is his own ability, though.
Gotcha. But now Fino had the blood to deal with. A blood-red copy of his own body left out of a puddle at his feet, deflecting the attack with a sweep of its own chainsaw facsimile. Noct could deal with Fino's blood clone in moments, needless to say, but those moments were invaluable. As he saw the ventriloquist's hand slam down towards the roof, Fino channeled his Aether through his feet, infusing the section of roof the two of them were standing on before the ventriloquist's hand could make contact. He didn't know what sort of ability they'd been trying to use, but it was good practice to infuse the environment before your enemy could. Violence has taught him that. Violence! Anger tightened his muscles. 2 swipes of ill humor dodged by inches on a thrust of the blood sword, nicking the ventriloquist's stomach as they dashed to the side. The few drops of blood that had sprayed forth were infused in nearly instantly, joining with Fino's sword to extend his reach just a tiny bit further on his next swing. Perfect parry! But the ventriloquist had been ready for it. Fino's sword froze in midair as if gripped by an invisible hand. We forgot he had this move, by the way. He hasn't used it since, like, Arc 2,
He
right?
breaks it out whenever you forget about it. No, he used this,
really
he used this at the start of Arc 12 as well. He used it, like, 5 times in a row.
Does he have to say it out loud, or is it just letting us know he's using
He's just letting you use it.
Interesting. Fino's sword froze in midair as if gripped by an invisible hand. No matter how hard he pulled, it wouldn't relent, so he immediately decided to abandon it. Kicking off it as a platform, he flipped backwards through the air, avoiding another sweep of the invisible sword as he did, and snapped his fingers. The blood blade detonated, shards of red crystal shrapnel flying in every direction. For a moment, the ventriloquist was forced to focus on defense, covering themselves with force fields to withstand the barrage of bloody darts. It was a moment they couldn't afford to lose. Landing on the ground, Fino dashed forward again, and a blade kissed his jugular. White-hot, white-cold pain flared out from Fino's neck as his blood sprayed out freely, painting the rooftop around him, a choking sound pouring from his mouth. What had happened? Neither Morgan knocked nor the ventriloquist had hit him. Nobody else had even gotten close. Nobody else had even... He looked behind him. There, holding a knife dripping with Fino's blood, stood Beatrice Grace. Her eyes were a cold blue as she glared at him, regarded him, and then vanished. An assassin. A sneak attack. Oh, wow. Fuck! All his aura gone in an instant. That's pretty good, though. That's pretty good, though. Is that how he said it?
Yeah, he was surprised.
Oh, fuck. Fuck me.
He kind of liked it, though. He was kind of into it.
Why?
It was a good attack.
Alright, do you want to go?
Sure. Beatrice Grace's ability was perfect for infiltration assassination. Like her brother's ability, Dupin's alchemy, it worked based on the senses. By sealing off one of her own senses, she could become undetectable to anyone else using that sense. By blinding herself, she became invisible. By deafening herself, she became inaudible. It should be.
Nice.
It sounded like an inconvenient power, but Beatrice found that it was perfect for her. At this point, she'd learned how to move about a world around her long ago. Judging the...
you know what it kind of reminds me of? She's literally doing the fucking One Ring thing.
Oh yeah,
going into the Nazgul zone.
Dodging the cyclone of blood slashes that the enemy unleashed, she passed by Morgan Knox's ear. Go, she whispered. I'll finish him off.
Oh, fuck.
Morgan didn't need to be told twice. Once again, he sent out a massive tendril of fog, but this time, instead of aiming at Fino, he lashed out at the Del Ced twins. Catching them by surprise, he managed to embrace them in the black smoke before they could even react. Even so, they turned their head once they were already constricted. The hell are you doing? Bruno cried out. My job, Morgan replied coldly. He still didn't trust the pair as far as he could throw them. Lowering himself to the ground, he planted his hand against an unfused section of the roof. Inside. In a single moment, Morgan and the Del Ceds, connected to his body by the fog, were transported into the sealed space that was the Tree of Might's temple. Appearing in the middle of a hallway, Bruno moved to break free of the cloud, but Morgan just raised a finger. We're not done. He placed his hand against the floor again. They paid on the next floor or down, and again, and again, and again, The pair continued to descend through the building. Can you take over?
Me?
Yeah.
I'll lock in then. The design of this temple was most convenient for Morgan's ability. Essentially, every level of the temple was sealed off from the others by the security system, meaning that each floor was a valid target for Morgan's inside. Just by planting his hand against the floor and activating the ability, he could pass through the fortress like a knife through butter. It took 16 uses of inside before the trio, Morgan, Bruno, and Serena, appeared inside the temple's throne room. Morgan looked around, scowled, and clicked his tongue. The room was empty. It wasn't as if they hadn't anticipated this. Since the dawn contest had begun, Dragon Hadrian had been particularly elusive. He'd appear for his matches and quickly retreat, recording himself and following a roundabout route to throw off any pursuers. It wasn't out of the question that even this mighty fortress was just a decoy, something to attract the eyes of his enemies while he secretly schemed elsewhere. Still, they thought their chances were good. Morgan tightened his fists. It was what it was. Even if they couldn't take on Hadrian, they could destroy that place and hope that would deal some kind of blow. Come on, Morgan said, turning his head. We need to head to the He stopped. Bruno Del Ced was crying. It didn't fit on his face. His expression was screwed up as if he were furious, his teeth bared, but tears were streaming down his cheeks. His arms were trembling, a deep heaving breath struggled through his throat. Dragon, Bruno whispered. He's not here, Morgan replied quietly. But Bruno wasn't speaking to him. With a thunderous boom, Bruno Del Cid stepped forward, fury finally overpowering his sorrow, and roared, Dragon! I know you can hear me! A finger froze over a button. Bruno let out a breath sparking with purple aether. Even if you're not willing to talk to me, he looked up, and his eyes were brilliant emeralds. You're going to damn well listen. Wait, has Bruno always had green eyes?
Yeah.
Fuck. Is Dragon going to listen?
Perhaps we'll find out next time.
Dragon! Dragon! Your boyfriend needs you!
Does it really text like, you up? You up?
you up? Changing the shape of this world? Changing the shape of this world? Oh, Lord. I'm sad. Oh. This is entertaining to you. Look at you hear that laugh, readers? He doesn't care.
The true face.
He was born a sinner. Alright.
That child was born laughing.
Is Gale conscious, or is he puppeting a corpse?
You mean Gale Golden when he was in
from Land?
Well, he's not around anymore
Yes.
in any fashion, but there's like a shadow of consciousness for an awakening that is controlled by Henry. So there's sort of
It's fucked up.
it's like a state of eternal torment essentially when you're being controlled by him.
Fucked.
Because like you're basically being forced, like it's a forced Aether awakening. Like, even if you are not capable of an Aether awakening, if he eats you, he can bring you out, and it just sort of fills in the gaps with suffering.
Time for Time has an interesting question.
Yes.
On the topic of the Supreme Succession, have there ever been schisms in the Supremacy where more than one person seems to have a claim to the title at once? I'm imagining a case where a duo tag teams the Supreme, or perhaps the death occurred in a closed room.
Yeah.
In cases like this where the
sorry.
Oh, sorry, continue.
Yeah, there's been a few cases like that. The case of the
cases...
Doctor, for one, was one like that.
Do cases like this where the line of succession is unclear default to a Dawn contest, or is there another process to resolve them?
It depends.
Do the various claimants just fight until only one is left standing?
Officially, it should be a Dawn contest, but realistically, often those sorts of things ends with everyone involved killing each other until there's one guy left.
Nice. Rurum asks, could Morganach use his letter ability to say words? Like, instead of B-A-B-E, could he say the word babe? Or like the sound ch instead of C-H?
I mean, he could. There's no real benefit, but he could do that.
It's faster to say a word than each syllable of a letter, you know what I mean? So if he's using that letter, saying B-A-B-E takes longer than babe. If that makes sense.
He could do that, but if he started doing that with his head, he would probably have trouble next time he went to the beach and had to talk to some babes. He would start accidentally using his ability.
True. He'd be like, "Hey there, babe," and then
he'd kill everyone on the beach. And then Naya would be like, "You have nothing left. Join me."
Lan asks, "How did the shepherdess get away with all her different identities? Does she get facial surgery?"
Yeah, she can get facial surgery, and then when she's done with that identity, she can rewind it.
Quaker asks, do any of the big three subspecies need to be given different medical care to other subspecies?
I think you've asked this before.
I'm going through old questions, fuck. Oh, it's so hard. Thought it was Pierrot. Oh. Does Pierrot use armaments because he doesn't have Aether?
He does have Aether.
Time for time.
Only Aether users can inherit the prince.
Right. People
doesn't have
the
his
impression that like the prince used up so much of his Aether that he could only use armaments.
Not really, no, because we know Nebula 1, who had like an insane Aether ability, also had the prince at that point.
Had the prince as well. Yeah, okay.
So he has his own Aether. He doesn't really have a unique Aether ability. He has the prince, he has like general Aether usage, and then he has his armaments. Because he likes
Quaker
the versatility.
says, if Mariloko hadn't betrayed Damon and gotten frozen, do you think Unchained would be as commonly copied as Quantum King?
Maybe.
I mean, it kind of is, between Nevermore and fucking Plunder Reach.
Well, those
are all just, like, shittier Unchains.
Well, those were attempts at making their own Quantum Kings. They're very similar abilities anyway, but it's like Quantum King is a more general one. It's pushing and pulling, whereas which is simple to
and
like
his
imitate.
gravity.
Well, gravity manipulation is a bit more complicated to like copy.
Yeah. Who decides the Supreme's epithet after they die, Lan asks. I think I remember you saying before that it's just, like, general consensus, and that some have multiple. Like, some people might call him Cadman the whatever because of his adventures. Others would call him Cadman the Indolent because he sat on his ass for 2 decades. Yeah. Well, my understanding was he did a whole bunch when he first became Supreme, and then gave up after Draenei,
He got bored, yeah.
Yeah. Which is why all the old heads were like, Cadman, and then all the new heads were like, fuck that guy.
Is that who?
Yeah. He just like a boomer, like, he defeated the Kingdom Moon cult! Whatever, Grandpa.
Oh, the Kingdom what now?
Who cares? Who? What's a moon?
The fucking Dark Star of their time.
Will Kingdom Moon cult ever come up?
Well, they're gone now. They no longer exist. If the
Star
story was set like, if it would be like
80
Cadman
years
the early
earlier?
years, they would be the main villains, though.
Interesting. So they were a big deal.
They were a very big deal.
Yeah. Would you say Cadman is a deconstruction on Shonen protags?
Oh,
'Cause
absolutely.
That's what I've been saying. Perfect. Okay, I'm not crazy.
I
felt like that was
his
what you were
backstory is
going
Naruto with the serial numbers filed off.
Yeah, pretty much. I think someone said that Cadman's just Naruto.
Yeah, he literally fights
I
the
love
power
it.
of friendship. His ability is literally power of friendship.
So Quaker has a question that I think you'll say who can say to.
Okay.
Quaker asks, why was it so rare for people to unlock Aether before it was discovered? Do people need to know that Aether exists to be able to unlock it?
Yes.
Okay, is that why it was rare?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Well, it wasn't discovered, so you can't know about it before people know about it.
Did you see the theory Jupiter posted in the Aetheral Space roleplay?
I did, yes. It's a good theory.
Ooh, you like that theory?
I like
It's
it.
very 5000-esque. Alright, well thank you for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye.